Hi, this is John with another episode of History and Prayer America 250. The topic of this episode is praying for resilience while dealing with depression and anxiety. Resilience means, according to Merriam-Webster, the ability to recover from or adjust to misfortune or change. To do this, we'll look at two great leaders, Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln. Many of us have dealt with depression and anxiety at different times of our lives. My main source for this episode is a book entitled A First-Rate Madness: Uncovering the Links Between Leadership and Mental Illness, written by Dr. Nasir Gaimi, MD, MPH of Tufts University. The doctor states the theme of his book as follows: the best crisis leaders are either mentally ill or mentally abnormal. The worst crisis leaders are mentally healthy. First, Abraham Lincoln is widely remembered as one of America's greatest leaders, revered for his role in preserving the Union and abolishing slavery. Within the Lincoln story, we were taught there lies a lesser-known story of personal struggle. Lincoln's lifelong battle with depression, which he called the hypos. As Lincoln matured, his struggles with depression became more pronounced. He experienced two particularly severe episodes. One following the death of his close friend Anne Rutledge in 1835, and another after the breakup of his engagement to Mary Todd in 1841, whom he eventually married, only to lose his second son, Eddie, at the young age of 4 in 1850. Perhaps you can imagine his mental challenges, chiseling away at his soul and gnawing at his sense of worth. Lincoln was reportedly so despondent that friends feared for his safety. He wrote anguished poetry about despair, including the Suicide Soliloquy, which is a powerfully dramatic and dark piece about contemplating suicide. During the first 3 years of the long, bloody Civil War, Lincoln fired 7 generals, some quite incompetent, before the arrival of Ulysses S. Grant. The Union Army was trounced at 1st and 2nd Manassas, thrown into confusion and driven away from Richmond at the 7 Days Battle, disastrously defeated at Fredericksburg because of a nonsensical frontal assault, and masterfully routed at Chancellorsville. Also, in 1862, the president's third son, Willie, succumbed to typhoid fever. Turning to Winston Churchill, he is remembered as one of the most influential leaders of the 20th century. He is heralded for his unswerving leadership during World War II and his powerful oratory. Yet behind the public persona lay a private struggle with mental health that Churchill himself referred to as his black dog. Churchill's depression is believed to have first manifested in his youth and continued intermittently for decades. Biographers and historians have pointed to periods of profound sadness, lethargy, and withdrawal, often coinciding with professional setbacks and personal losses. Churchill's father, Lord Randolph, was a prominent and volatile politician and was cold and distant towards his son, rarely showing any affection. Winston yearned for Lord Randolph's respect and approval, only to have his father die when Winston was 20 years old. Winston's mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American socialite, famous for her beauty, influence, and affairs. Like her husband, she was often preoccupied with society and politics, and she played a limited role in her son's daily upbringing, relying heavily on the family nanny. Winston famously wrote that he loved his mother dearly, but at a distance. He once told his doctor regarding his daily life, "I don't like standing near the edge of a platform when an express is coming through, and I don't like to stand by the side of a ship and look down into the water. A second's action," he said, "would end everything. A few drops of desperation." Winston Churchill's onerous times included World War I, with him being the political champion and driving force behind the 1915 effort of opening a new front by attacking the Ottoman Empire through the Dardanelles. It was a disastrous defeat, resulting in 250,000 Allied casualties. Though poorly coordinated by the Army and Navy, Churchill was forced to retire from his position of Lord of the Admiralty. Ousted from politics in the 1930s, Churchill was virtually the sole voice warning against Adolf Hitler, appeasement, and the rise of the Nazis. So, how did Lincoln and Churchill, a century apart from one another, find resilience? How did they escape harming themselves and save their nations in a time when psychiatric conditions were stigmatized and treatment was essentially unknown? Did they pray? There's no public record of Churchill praying to tame his black dog. However, he engaged intensely in work and public service. He painted as a creative escape. He also did bricklaying, though he wasn't very good at it. He had the support of his devoted wife Clementine, his doctors, and his friends. Winston also used his quick wit with others. For instance, to Bessie Braddock, MP, after she allegedly told him, "Winston, you are drunk, and what's more, you are disgustingly drunk." Churchill replied, "My dear, you are ugly. And what's more, you are disgustingly ugly. But tomorrow I shall be sober, and you will still be disgustingly ugly." Historical accounts about Lincoln show that he turned to faith in the Bible, often in an act of spontaneous, desperate prayer. He developed a strong belief in providence, God's intervention in human events. His spiritual outlook helped him endure the crushing weight of the war and his personal losses. Like Churchill, Lincoln also relied heavily on secular methods. He enjoyed chess, writing poetry, and taking care of his cats. Most notably, he utilized a strong sense of purpose, and he liked telling jokes and stories. During a debate, his opponent, Stephen Douglas, accused Lincoln of being two-faced. Lincoln calmly replied, "I leave it to my audience. If I had two faces, would I be wearing this one?" So, how do we deal with the anxiety, indignity, sadness, and rejection we feel from depression? We can certainly use our hobbies and employ our interests, as did Churchill and Lincoln. But most important, there's a short prayer from BibleStudiesTools.com by Mary Sutherland. "Father, I need your help. I turn to you first. My heart cries out to you, asking for your hand of deliverance and restoration to touch my life. Guide my steps to those you have equipped and chosen to help me during this dark time. I don't see them, Lord, but I trust you to bring them, thanking you now for what you are already doing in the midst of this pit. Amen." There are different types of treatment for depression and anxiety. If you or someone in need require help, do the research. Talk to someone safe. Talk with your doctor and or spiritual leader. Research the types of treatment available. Ask questions and get referrals from someone you trust. You do have strengths and interests worth developing. Thank you for watching this 6th episode of History and Prayer, America 250. As a country, we have spoken to God much over these last 250 years. Let's continue to do so and build resilience. There is always hope.